Mark stood in the middle of the room, his hands resting calmly on the metal table in front of him. The air on the space station Unity was cold, recycled too many times, and it smelled faintly of ozone. He looked out of the large window. Below him, the Earth turned slowly. It was a beautiful blue and white marble, floating in the dark, empty space. It looked peaceful from up here, but Mark knew that peace was a fragile thing. It was like a thin glass that could break very easily. Today, that glass was in danger of shattering. Mark was the representative for the United Earth Coalition. He was not a soldier, and he was not a young man anymore. He had gray hair and a face that had seen many difficult years, but he had a strong heart. He wore a simple, dark suit. He waited for the guests to arrive. These guests were not human. They were from the Vex Assembly. The Vex were an alien race that controlled thousands of stars. They believed they were the rulers of the galaxy. They thought they were smarter than everyone else. The doors to the conference room slid open with a soft hissing sound. Mark did not turn around immediately. He waited for them to step inside. 3 tall figures entered the room. They floated slightly above the floor. They did not walk like humans. Their bodies were long and thin, covered in armor that shined with many colors like oil on water. Their faces were hidden behind smooth, featureless masks. Mark turned to face them. He did not bow. He did not smile. He just nodded his head once. "I am Mark," he said in a clear voice. "Welcome to the station, Unity." The leader of the alien group floated forward. He was taller than the others. Mark knew his title was Praetor. The Vex did not use names like humans did. They used titles that showed their rank. Praetor's voice was not a voice. It was a sound that came from a machine on his chest. It sounded like 2 metal pieces grinding together. It was cold and sharp. "We are the Vex Assembly," Praetor said. "We are here to finalize the status of your world, Earth." They took their places at the table. The Vex did not sit. They stood, or rather, hovered at the other end. Mark remained standing as well. The distance between them felt like 1,000,000 miles. "Let us talk," Mark said. "The time for talking is over," Praetor replied. "The calculations are complete. Your civilization is chaotic. You fight among yourselves. You possess dangerous weapons. You are a virus in a clean system." Mark listened to the insults. He had heard them before in the preliminary meetings. The Vex believed that order was the most important thing in the universe. They did not like change. They did not like unpredictability. And humans were the most unpredictable species in the galaxy. "We are a young race," Mark said calmly. "We are learning, but we have a right to grow. We do not answer to you." Praetor made a strange noise, maybe a laugh. "You do not understand. The galaxy is a dangerous place. There are older, darker things than you. The Vex provide protection. We provide order. In exchange, we require obedience." Praetor extended a long, thin arm. He placed a small, clear data pad on the table. He pushed it across the metal surface toward Mark. "This is the indoctrination protocol," Praetor said. "Sign it, the terms are fair." Mark picked up the data pad. He tapped the screen. He read the words. As he read, his face became harder. His jaw tightened. The document was not a treaty. It was a death sentence for human freedom. It demanded that Earth destroy all its ships. It demanded that Earth hand over all nuclear weapons. It stated that Earth would be a farm world for the Vex. Humans would be allowed to live, but they would not be allowed to leave their planet. They would not be allowed to make new technology. They would be prisoners on their own world. Mark looked up from the pad. He looked into the dark eye shields of the Vex leader. "This says we must dismantle our defenses," Mark said. "It says we must stop all space travel. You want to put us in a cage." "It is for your own safety," Praetor said, "and for the safety of the galaxy. Humans are too violent. You cannot be trusted with the stars." Mark put the datapad down on the table. He did not push it back. He left it there, sitting between them like a bomb. "We will not sign this," Mark said. Praetor shifted slightly. The lights on his armor blinked faster. You do not have a choice. Look at the window. Mark looked. Beside the alien station, a massive Vex ship had appeared. It was huge, dark, and silent. It was a warship bigger than anything Earth had ever built. Its weapons were powered up and glowing. It was a threat, hanging right over Earth's head. If you do not sign, Preetor said, his mechanical voice rising in volume, we will open fire. We will target your military bases. We will remove your ability to make war. We will break your cities until you bow. Mark felt a chill in his stomach. He thought of the people down there. He thought of his own family living in the city. He thought of the billions of lives that depended on this moment. He was afraid. Any man would be afraid. But he was not just a man. He was the voice of Earth right now. And he knew something the Vex did not know. He knew that humans do not fight well when they are tied down. They fight best when their backs are against the wall. The Vex thought fear would make Earth surrender. But fear only made humans angry. Are you threatening my world? Mark asked. His voice was quiet, but it was very steady. We are issuing a final warning, Preetor said. You have 1 hour. If the document is not signed, the purification begins. We will save your planet by destroying your potential. Mark looked at the alien again. He saw no pity there. He saw no kindness. He only saw arrogance. The Vex thought they were gods. They thought they could decide who lived and who died. They thought Earth was just another primitive tribe to be conquered. They were wrong. Mark realized that talking was useless. There was no common ground here. The Vex wanted slaves, not partners. And Earth would never be slaves. You have made a mistake, Mark said. Preetor stopped moving. Explain. You think we will fight for our lives? Mark said. But we will not just fight for our lives. We will fight for our freedom. You do not know what you have woken up. Mark picked up the datapad. He held it for a moment. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he placed it in his pocket. I am not keeping this, Mark said. I am keeping this as evidence of your crime. You are refusing the council? Preetor asked. The grinding voice sounded sharper now, angry. I am refusing your slavery, Mark replied. Preetor floated higher, his body glowing with a bright, angry red light. Then you are doomed. We will give you 24 hours to reconsider. When we return, we expect total surrender. Or we will burn your sky. Leave, Mark said. He pointed to the door. Get off my station. The Vex did not move for a long moment. The air in the room crackled with tension. Mark thought they might attack him right there. But they were disciplined. They were rules followers. They left the room, floating out the door without another word. The doors closed, and Mark was alone. He stood in the silence for a long time. He looked back out the window at the Earth. The big Vex ship was still out there, watching. But Mark did not look at the ship. He looked at the blue planet dot. He touched his ear, activating his communication link. This is Mark, he said. Connect me to the command center in the United States. Secure line. A voice answered immediately. It was Sarah, the Secretary of Defense. She sounded tense. Mark, what happened? Did they accept? Mark took a deep breath. He felt tired, but he also felt a strange sense of clarity. It was like a fog had lifted. He knew what had to be done. No, Sarah, Mark said. They did not accept. They gave us an ultimatum. Submit or die. There was a silence on the line for a second. What are your orders, Mark? Mark looked at the spot where Preetor had floated. He thought about the arrogance of the aliens. He thought about the cities of Earth. He thought about the future. My orders are simple, Mark said. Prepare the broadcast. I'm coming back to the surface. We are not going to surrender. We are going to tell them exactly who we are. Is it war? Sarah asked. Mark turned away from the window. He straightened his tie. He walked toward the exit. Yes, Mark said. It is war. And tell John to warm up the Ghost Fleet. We are going to need them. Mark walked out of the conference room, leaving the empty table behind him. The talks had collapsed. The threat had been issued. But the Vex had made one big mistake. They thought Earth was weak. They were about to find out that Earth was the most dangerous place in the galaxy. The elevator moved fast, descending deep underground. Sarah stood in the corner, holding a metal handrail tight. She looked at the numbers counting down on the display above the door. They were passing floors that did not even have names anymore, just numbers. She was going to the war room. It was a bunker built deep under the ground, safe from any bomb. Sarah was the Secretary of Defense. She had short black hair and sharp eyes that noticed everything. Today, her eyes were tired, but they were also very focused. She carried a small computer pad under her arm. It contained the information about the Vex. The aliens above them were powerful, but Sarah believed they had a weakness. They were too proud. They thought they knew everything. The doors opened with a heavy thud. Sarah walked out into a busy, noisy room. This was the command center. There were hundreds of screens on the walls, showing maps, lists of weapons, and live videos from space. Men and women in uniforms ran from desk to desk, shouting orders and typing fast. It smelled like coffee and sweat. The air was hot. Everyone was working hard. They knew the alien ship was up there, and they knew time was running out. The feeling in the room was tense, like a wire pulled too tight. But nobody was crying. Nobody was running away. They were doing their jobs. Sarah walked through the crowd until she reached a large table in the center of the room. A man was standing there, looking at a large screen. He had messy hair and glasses. He was wearing a dirty shirt with grease on it. This was John. He was the smartest engineer on Earth. He built the machines that kept them safe. John turned around when he saw Sarah. He did not smile. He looked worried. "Did Mark sign it?" John asked. "Are we giving up?" Sarah shook her head. She put her computer pad on the table. "No, Mark told them no. He is on his way back here." John let out a long breath, like he had been holding it for hours. "Good, I was afraid he would sign. I saw their ship. It is huge. But we have something they do not understand." Sarah pointed to the screen. It showed a diagram of the Vex ship and its weapons. "I have been reading the reports from the station," she said. "The Vex fight like robots. They follow a plan. They use shields that block energy weapons. They expect us to fire lasers at them. They expect us to be scared and run." Sarah leaned closer to John. "But we are not going to run. We are not going to fight the way they want us to fight." John looked at the diagram. His eyes lit up. He understood what she was saying. "You want to cheat," he said. "I want to win," Sarah corrected him. "They have big shields, but those shields take time to recharge. They have armor, but it is thin in the back. They think we are stupid monkeys. We need to use that." Sarah tapped the screen, zooming in on the asteroid belt near Earth. Hidden among the rocks were small, gray objects. To the Vex sensors, they looked like space junk. But they were not junk. They were mines. They were small drones built by John's team. "The Vex are waiting for a message," Sarah said. "They think we are going to beg for mercy. Mark is going to send a message, but it won't be begging. It will be a warning." John nodded. "The Ghost Fleet is ready. The stealth ships are hidden in the shadow of the moon. They are old ships, but we painted them black and covered them with material that hides their heat signature. The Vex won't see them until it is too late." Sarah walked over to a large window on the wall of the bunker. It was not a real window. It was a digital screen showing the surface above. She imagined the cities up there. She thought about the people. The families, the children, the old people. They were going about their day, not knowing that the sky might fall on them soon. She remembered when she was a little girl. Her father used to take her camping. He taught her how to survive in the woods. He told her, "Sarah, if a bear attacks you, do not play dead. You fight back. You hit its nose. You do whatever it takes to survive." The Vex were a very big bear. But humans had sharp claws, too. They had nuclear bombs. They had railguns that shot metal bars at incredible speeds. They had soldiers who had been fighting wars on their own planet for thousands of years. Humans were experts at war. It was a terrible thing to be good at, but right now, it was the only thing that would save them. "Mark is going to declare war," Sarah said quietly. "We need to be ready to strike the second he finishes speaking." A young soldier ran up to them. He was holding a phone. "Ma'am," he said to Sarah, "the president is waiting for your vote. The council is asking if we should launch a first strike." Sarah looked at the soldier. She looked at John, then she looked back at the map of the stars. It was a heavy choice. If they attacked first, they might anger the Vex even more. But if they waited, the Vex might blow them up before they could even leave the ground. "We vote yes," Sarah said clearly. "We do not wait for them to shoot first." The soldier ran away to make the call. Sarah turned back to John. "How much time do we have?" John looked at his watch. "Mark's shuttle will land in 30 minutes. The broadcast will go live 10 minutes after that. That gives us 40 minutes before the Vex realize what is happening." 40 minutes, Sarah said. "It is not a lot of time, but it is enough." She walked with John to a control panel. John typed in a secret code. A red button lit up under a glass cover. This was the switch for the hidden defense platforms. These were giant railguns that were disguised as weather satellites in high orbit. For years, they had been called peaceful science tools. Today, they would become weapons of war. "Are you ready to change the world?" Sarah asked. John put his hand on the glass cover. He did not look like an engineer right now. He looked like a soldier. "I was born ready," he said. "They came to the wrong planet. They thought they would find sheep. They found wolves instead." Suddenly, a loud alarm began to ring in the bunker. It was not a danger alarm. It was a notification alarm. A message appeared on the main screen. It was from Mark's shuttle. It simply said, "Returning, status, hostile." Sarah stood up straight. She fixed her jacket. The noise in the room stopped. Everyone looked at her. They were waiting for her command. She was the boss. She was the one who had to tell them it was okay to fight. "Listen to me," Sarah shouted. Her voice was strong and carried across the room. "The talks have failed. The enemy has given us a choice to be slaves or to be dead. We choose neither. We choose to fight. Today we protect our home. Activate all defense systems. Wake up the fleet." The room erupted in noise again, but this time it was not panic. It was action. It was the sound of people getting ready to defend their families. Sarah picked up her phone and dialed a secure number. It connected to the White House. "Mr. President," she said when the line opened. "It is Sarah. Mark is safe. But we are at war. I need you to authorize the declaration. Send it to every channel. Tell the galaxy that Earth is not afraid." She listened for a moment, then nodded. "Understood? We will handle the rest." She hung up the phone. She looked at the big screen again. She could see the Vex ship in the distance. It looked beautiful and scary, but it was just metal and engines. It could be destroyed. "Get the cameras ready," Sarah told John. "Mark wants to speak to the galaxy. He wants to make sure they hear him loud and clear." John typed fast on his keyboard. "We are hijacking their frequency," he said. "We are going to send the message directly to their ship. They won't be able to ignore us." Sarah smiled. It was a cold smile. "Good, let's see if their shiny armor can stop the truth." The clock was ticking. The moment was coming soon. The quiet years were over. The time for peace was finished. Now, the drums of war were beating. Sarah stood in the middle of the chaos, calm and ready. The Vex had made a mistake. They had threatened the humans. And the humans were about to bite back. David sat in a small chair on the bridge of the Vex ship called the Arbiter. The room was huge and circular, filled with strange lights and screens that showed the stars outside. The Vex crew moved around silently, floating above the floor. They did not speak to each other. They just worked at their stations. The air on the ship was cold and smelled like burnt metal. David was the only human on the ship. He was an officer from Earth, sent here to be a link between the two worlds during the talks. But now the talks were over. He felt very small sitting there. He wore a simple uniform, and he kept his hands on his lap so they would not shake. He looked at the big view screen in the front of the room. It showed the Earth, a blue and white ball, hanging in the dark space dot behind him. Floating near the command chair was Preetor. The Vex leader was speaking to the main fleet through his mind link. David could not hear the words, but he could feel the buzzing sound in the air. The Vex were arrogant. They were sure they had won. They were waiting for the Earth to send a message saying they would surrender. They were waiting for the humans to cry and ask for help. David checked the clock on his wrist. There were only 10 seconds left. He looked at the panel in front of him. It was a communications console. David had worked on this panel for 2 weeks. He knew every wire and every button. The Vex thought they had locked him out of the important systems. They thought a human was too stupid to understand their technology. But they were wrong. David was a smart man. He had found a back door into their system. The clock counted down. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly the lights on the bridge turned red. An alarm started to blare, a loud sound that David had never heard before. The Vex crew stopped moving. They looked at their screens in confusion. They tapped their controls, but nothing happened. Then the main view screen flickered. The image of the Earth vanished. It was replaced by a human symbol. It was a flag showing stripes and stars. Then a voice filled the room. It came from every speaker on the ship. It was Mark's voice. He was on Earth, but his voice was loud and clear, booming through the alien ship. "To the Vex Assembly," Mark said. His voice was serious and deep. "You have given us a choice. You told us to kneel or to die. You think we are afraid? You think we are weak?" Preetor spun around, his mask facing David. "What is this?" Preetor screeched, "Stop it! Human, stop this noise." David did not move. He just sat there and listened. Mark continued to speak. "We are the people of Earth. We have survived diseases, wars, and disasters. We have climbed out of the mud and reached for the stars. We did not come this far to be slaves to a machine. We do not want your protection. We do not want your order. We want our freedom." The Vex crew was panicking. They ran around the bridge, trying to find the source. F the signal. But David had locked them out. He had control of the ship's broadcast system. "Consider this your notification," Mark's voice grew harder. "You are trespassing in our home. We are not asking you to leave. We are telling you. War is hereby declared. We will fight you on the ground. We will fight you in the sky. We will never stop." The message ended, and the screen went black for a moment. Preetor let out a sound of pure rage. It sounded like metal tearing. He floated quickly across the room until he was right in front of David. "You foolish creature," Preetor hissed. "You have doomed your world. We will destroy you. We will turn your cities to glass." David looked up at the tall alien. For the first time he saw a crack in the Vex armor. They were not calm anymore. They were angry. They were scared because they had lost control. David smiled a little bit. It was a brave smile. "I did not doom us," David said quietly. "I just woke you up. Fire the weapons." Preetor shouted to his crew. "Destroy the planet now." The Vex crew rushed to obey. The ship's large cannons began to hum with energy. The lights on the weapons glowed brighter. They were going to shoot the Earth. David knew this was coming. He had planned for this. He tapped a code into his console. It was a simple rhythm, like a beat on a drum. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap. He sent the code. It was not a message. It was a signal. Far away, hidden among the debris of the solar system, silent machines woke up. They were waiting for this exact signal. Just as the Vex ship was about to fire, the ship shook violently. David was thrown out of his chair. He hit the floor hard. Alarm screamed even louder than before. "Report?" Preetor screamed. "Why are we shaking?" Another Vex officer looked at a screen. "We are under attack. The readings are impossible. There are projectiles coming from the asteroid belt. They are moving very fast. Shields up! Preetor yelled. Deflect them! The shields around the Vex ship flared up, a blue bubble of light. But the attack was not what they expected. It was not a laser. It was not a missile. It was solid metal. Earth had built giant railguns in space. They shot metal bars the size of trees at incredible speeds. The metal bars hit the Vex shields with the force of 1,000 hammers. The shields held for a second, and then they shattered. The glass broke. The metal bars passed through the shields and smashed into the hull of the great ship. Explosions rocked the bridge. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Panels blew open. David crawled back to his chair. He held on tight. He saw on the screen that the Vex fleet was not safe either. Earth had hundreds of hidden traps. Mines, drones, and stealth ships were attacking the Vex all at once. It was a trap. The Vex had walked right into it. Preetor was floating upside down, his systems damaged. How? He asked. How did they hide this from us? David looked at the alien leader. He felt a surge of pride in his chest. He was a human, and he was watching his planet fight back. Because we are unpredictable, David said. You looked at our history and saw chaos. We looked at our history and saw survival. You were too busy looking down at us to see what was in our hands. The lights on the bridge flickered and died. The only light came from the emergency red lamps and the explosions outside. The Vex crew was confused. They did not know how to fight a war like this. They were used to enemies who stood in lines and shot at each other. Humans were hiding. Humans were cheating. Humans were fighting dirty, and they were winning. David touched his ear again. He knew the transmission was being recorded by Earth. He wanted to send one last message to Sarah and Mark. Thunder is go, David whispered into the mic. Repeat, thunder is go. Let them have it. On Earth, Sarah heard the words. She looked at the general next to her. Fire the main guns, she said. On the moon, hidden in the shadows, massive doors opened. The ghost fleet appeared. These were Earth's secret ships. They were painted black and driven by nuclear engines. They rushed out from behind the moon like a pack of wolves, speeding toward the confused Vex fleet. The war had started. The Vex had wanted a quick surrender. Instead, they got a fight. David sat on the floor of the enemy bridge, surrounded by panicked aliens, and he smiled. He had sent the declaration. Now he just had to survive the fireworks. The humans were in the game now, and they played to win. The space around Earth was filled with fire and noise. It was not the silent space from the movies. It was loud, violent, and chaotic. Metal debris flew everywhere. Lasers crossed paths with solid projectiles. Mike sat inside his small fighter ship, called the Wraith. His hands were sweaty inside his gloves, gripping the control stick tight. The ship shook violently as a blast of red energy from a Vex fighter missed him by just a few feet. Watch your six, Mike. You have a bogey on your tail. A voice shouted in his ear. It was his wingman, Sam. Mike did not panic. He pushed the throttle forward. The engine roared behind him. He pulled the stick back and to the left, making the ship spin in a crazy loop. The Vex ship tried to follow him, but it moved like a giant rock. It was too predictable. Mike was flying like a madman, twisting and turning in ways the alien computers could not understand. I see him, Sam, Mike said. His breathing was fast and heavy. I'm shaking him. Mike looked at his radar screen. The Vex ship was right behind him. He waited for a second. He waited for the alien to lock onto his ship. Then he hit the air brakes. The Wraith slowed down instantly in space. The Vex ship zoomed past him, surprised by the sudden stop. It was now in front of Mike. Got you, Mike whispered. He pressed the trigger on his control stick. His ship did not fire lasers. His ship fired solid metal slugs. They were heavy, dense rods of tungsten. They ripped through the Vex ship's shields like a bullet through paper. The enemy ship exploded in a bright flash of light. Good hit, Mike. Sam cheered. That's another one down. Mike smiled, but his heart was still pounding. There were too many of them. Everywhere he looked, the sky was full of the Vex fleet. The Vex ships were big and beautiful, glowing with blue light. But Earth's ships were ugly, scarred, and dangerous. They were fighting with a ferocity that the aliens had never seen before. "Attention all units," a voice cut through the radio. It was Sarah from the command center. "A Vex dreadnought is attempting to enter low orbit. It is heading toward the American East Coast. We cannot let it land. Target is priority 1? Mike looked out his window. Above the Earth, a massive shadow was falling. It was a Vex dreadnought. It was the size of a city. It was moving slowly toward the planet, its huge guns pointing down at the cities. If it reached the atmosphere, it would destroy millions of people. "We have to stop that," Mike said to his squad. "Squadron Alpha, follow me." He turned his ship toward the dreadnought. It was like a fly attacking a mountain. The dreadnought had hundreds of small guns protecting it. Green energy blasts shot out at them. 2 of Mike's friends were hit immediately. Their ships vanished in clouds of gas. "Keep going," Mike shouted. "Don't stop." He flew closer. The dreadnought was covered in a shimmering blue shield. The human weapons were bouncing off it. The shield was too strong. "My shots aren't doing anything," Sam yelled. "Mike, the shield is too thick." Mike knew Sam was right. They could shoot at it all day and not make a scratch. They needed to find a weakness. He remembered the briefing John had given them before the launch. "The Vex shields pulse," John had said. Asterisk, they breathe. They expand and contract. When the shield pulse hits its lowest point, for a split second, it is vulnerable. Asterisk, Mike watched the huge blue bubble around the dreadnought. It was glowing and pulsing. Thrum, thrum, thrum. He flew his ship closer, dodging the enemy fire. He ignored the alarm screaming in his cockpit. He focused entirely on the blue light. "Pull back," Mike ordered. "Get out of range?" "What? Why?" Sam asked. "We have to attack." "Just do it," Mike screamed. He turned his ship around and flew away from the dreadnought. The Vex guns stopped firing. They thought the humans were running away. The dreadnought continued its slow descent toward Earth. Mike watched the shield. He was counting in his head. He waited for the rhythm. He knew he had only one chance. "Get ready to turn around," Mike said quietly into the radio. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Mike spun his ship around and pushed the engine to full power. He was flying directly at the dreadnought again. The shield was pulsing. Blue, bright blue, dark blue. Now, the shield flickered. For just a moment, it was gone. Now. "Fire everything," Mike yelled. He and his squad fired all their weapons at once. Hundreds of metal slugs slammed into the hull of the dreadnought where the shield had been. Explosions rippled across the surface of the giant ship, but it was not enough. The ship kept moving. The damage was big, but the dreadnought was too strong. It kept going down to Earth. Mike looked at his fuel gauge. It was in the red. He had almost no fuel left. His ship was smoking from a hit to his engine. He could not go back to the station. He could not land. He looked at the dreadnought again. He saw a large glowing tower on the top of the ship. It was the shield generator. If he could destroy that, the whole ship would be open, but the generator was deep inside the ship's armor. His bullets would not reach it. Mike took a deep breath. He thought about his home in Florida. He thought about the beach and the sunshine. He thought about his family. He could not let that ship destroy his home. He made a decision. It was not a hard decision. It was the only one he could make. "Sam, listen to me," Mike said. His voice was very calm. "Take the rest of the squad and get out of here." "You are clear to disengage." "Mike, what are you talking about?" Sam asked. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to turn off the lights," Mike said. He pushed the throttle all the way forward. The Wraith surged ahead. He aimed his ship right at the glowing tower on the dreadnought. He was not firing his guns. He was using his ship as a bullet. "Mike, no!" Sam screamed. "Eject!" "You can eject." "No time," Mike said. "Tell Sarah I said thanks." Tell her we fought. The Vex guns tried to stop him, but he was too fast. He was a meteor. The alarms in his ship were blaring, telling him he was about to crash. He closed his eyes for a second and pictured the sky. I love you, Earth, he whispered. The Wraith smashed into the shield generator. The impact was silent in space, but the explosion was blinding. A massive fireball erupted from the top of the dreadnought. The generator blew up. The blue shield around the ship vanished instantly. From the ground, the massive planetary defense cannons roared to life. Sarah had been waiting for this moment. Target locked. The ground crews shouted. Giant beams of energy shot up from the surface of the Earth, with no shields to stop them. The beams tore through the dreadnought. The great ship broke apart. It cracked down the middle and burned up as it fell into the atmosphere. It would never hurt anyone. Sam and the rest of the squadron watched the fireball fade away. The sky was clear of the big ship. Mike is gone, Sam whispered. There were tears in his eyes. He did it, another pilot said. He saved the East Coast. The battle was not over. There were still many Vex ships fighting, but the mood had changed. The humans were not scared anymore. They were angry. They saw what one man in a small ship could do. If Mike could destroy a dreadnought, they could destroy the rest of the fleet. The humans fought harder than ever. They swarmed the Vex ships like angry bees. They did not care about the odds. They did not care about the danger. They were fighting for their home. And humans are the most dangerous when they are fighting for their home. The Vex had thought they were just dealing with bugs, but they had just woken up a dragon. And Mike was the spark that lit the fire. The fighting finally stopped. The bright flashes of lasers and explosions faded into the darkness of space. The silence that returned was heavy and empty. Small pieces of destroyed ships floated around the Earth like ash. Tom stood inside the airlock of the station Unity, wearing a heavy spacesuit. He waited for the light to turn green so he could go outside. He carried a rifle on his back, just in case. Tom was a soldier, a ground commander who had been brought up to lead the boarding team. He was a big man with a quiet voice and a steady hand. The airlock hissed and the door opened. Tom stepped out into the gravity-less corridor of the station. The station was a mess. Lights flickered on and off. Wires hung from the ceiling like broken vines. Smoke floated in the air. The battle here had been short but violent. The Vex had tried to take the station, but the human crew had fought them off in the hallways. Tom moved carefully, his magnetic boots clanking softly on the metal floor. His team followed him. They checked every corner. Clear, said the soldier behind him. They moved toward the conference room where Mark had met the Vex leader. That was their destination. Intelligence reports said the Vex leader was still there. He had not fled. When they reached the door, it was bent and twisted from an explosion. Tom stepped over the debris. Inside the room, the air was cold. The large window at the end of the room was cracked but still holding. Outside, he could see the Earth. It looked peaceful now. Despite the scars of war. In the middle of the room stood the Vex. It was Preetor. He was not floating anymore. He stood on the floor, his long body bent slightly. His shiny armor was dull and scratched. 3 of his guards stood around him, their weapons pointed at the door. They looked tired. Their lights were dim. Tom raised his hand, signaling his team to stop. He stepped forward alone. He took off his helmet so the alien could see his face. I am Tom, he said. I represent Earth. Preetor turned slowly. The mechanical grinding sound was weak now. You have won this battle, human. But you cannot win the war. The Vex are endless. We are infinite. Tom looked around the room. He saw the data pad on the table, the one Mark had refused to sign. He picked it up. He looked at the words on the screen. They were humiliating words. Words about submission and slavery. He crushed the pad in his hand, bending the metal until it snapped. We don't care about endless, Tom said. We only care about right now. And right now, you are in our house. Preetor made a sound that might have been a sigh. Our calculations were wrong. We predicted you would surrender to save your cities. We predicted fear would rule you. But you are illogical. You throw away your lives for nothing. Tom stepped closer to the alien leader. He did not point his gun. He didn't need to. We don't throw our lives away for nothing, Tom corrected him. We fight for each other. That is a concept you will never understand. You fight for order. We fight for home. That is why you lost. Suddenly a light on Preeter's chest blinked very fast. A message was coming through from the Vex fleet. Preeter listened for a moment. Then his posture changed. He seemed to shrink. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something else. It was fear, or perhaps just cold logic. The High Command has spoken, Preeter said. The risk-to-resource ratio is too high. They have determined that your species is too unstable to integrate. We cannot control you. And a species that cannot be controlled is a danger to the assembly. Tom stared at him. What are you saying? Preeter looked at Tom. We are leaving. We are withdrawing our ships from this sector. It took a moment for the words to sink in. Tom didn't cheer. He just nodded. It was what he expected. The Vex were bullies. When the bully gets punched in the nose, he runs away. Go, Tom said. And don't come back. If you ever come back to Earth, we won't just fight you. We will hunt you. We will find your homeworlds, and we will return the favor. Preeter hesitated. He looked at the human soldiers standing in the doorway. They looked fierce, covered in dust and sweat, their eyes burning with intensity. He realized it was not a bluff. Humans never forgot an enemy. We will mark this sector as forbiddance, Preeter said. No Vex ship will enter this system again? The Vex leader turned and walked out of the room, followed by his guards. They moved like ghosts, leaving the station without another shot. Tom watched them go. He wanted to shoot them in the back, but he didn't. They were leaving. That was enough. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. Sarah, this is Tom. The Vex are retreating. They are leaving the system. A crackle of static, and then Sarah's voice came through. She sounded tired, but happy. I see them on the radar, Tom. They are jumping to hyperspace. It's over. Tom walked over to the large window. Outside, the massive Vex ships were turning around. One by one, they vanished in flashes of blue light. The sky was becoming clear again. The sun began to rise over the curve of the earth, lighting up the clouds. Is it really over? A young soldier asked. Tom put his hand on the soldier's shoulder. The battle is over. The war is won. Tom looked down at the earth. He thought about Mike, the pilot who had crashed his ship to save the coast. He thought about Mark, standing up to the aliens in a suit. He thought about Sarah and John, working in the dark bunker. He thought about David, the spy on the enemy ship. They were just people. Simple people. But together they had done something impossible. They had scared the monsters. Did they surrender? Sarah asked over the radio. Tom watched the last alien ship disappear into the void. He smiled, a tired, genuine smile. The galaxy was a big, scary place. There would be other enemies. There would be other wars. But Earth would be ready? No, Sarah, Tom said softly. They didn't surrender. Then what happened? Tom looked at the blue planet spinning in the silence. It looked beautiful. It looked strong. They ran, Tom said. They realized they woke up the wrong planet. The sun shone through the window, hitting Tom's face. He put his helmet back on and turned to his team. Come on, he said. Let's go home.